Welcome back to another episode of Reality Roundtable. I'm your host, Jonathan Brown, and on today's episode, this is for anybody who feels stuck in their life and they honestly want to make a change, or they've been putting off something that they really want to do. Anyone who's been waiting, anyone who's been telling themselves, I'll start when the timing is right. Let me just tell you now, when the timing is right, that day will more than likely never come, because that's really just a figment of our imagination. And we're going to talk about why waiting for the perfect time is honestly one of the most dangerous things that you can do, and how it quietly holds you back from the life that you really want. This episode isn't about rushing, and it's definitely not about beating yourself up. Honestly, it's about awareness and being honest with yourself and where you're at in life. Also, it's about realizing that clarity comes after action, not before it. And if you've been sitting on an idea, a dream that you want to accomplish or that you want to pursue, or a change in your life that you know that you really want to or need to make, this episode is for you. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's get into this. We've all said this before. I'll start when things calm down. I just need a little more money. Once I feel more confident, after I get more experience. The idea of the right time feels logical, responsible, smart even. But here's the truth that nobody wants to talk about. The perfect time is honestly a myth, like I said earlier in the episode. There is no alarm that goes off one morning that says, "Congratulations, you're fully ready." Life just doesn't work that way. There will always be more responsibility, more uncertainty, more fear, and also more reasons why you want to delay what you're really wanting to do in life. And the longer that you wait, the heavier the decision becomes. Waiting doesn't make things easier. It makes them feel bigger. Because now, you're not just starting, you're starting late, at least in your own mind. And I'll give you an example. Let's just go back to the first two episodes that I've put back out in the last couple weeks. If you listen to them, you can tell that it's been a minute since I've actually recorded an episode. But I can be honest with myself in saying that I could do a better job in recording these. And also I can do a better job in my delivery and also the pace in which I go about these episodes. But I wouldn't be able to come to that conclusion had I not put those episodes out. Because honestly, if I was waiting for the right time to bring this podcast back, it would have never happened. But now since I put those two episodes out, I know what I can improve on, and honestly, it gives me something to build on going forward in the future. Also, waiting feels safe because it protects your identity. When you don't start, you can't fail, you can't be judged, and you can't be wrong. As long as the idea lives in your head, it's perfect. The moment you act on it, it becomes real. And real things can disappoint you. So waiting becomes a shield. You tell yourself, I'm just being patient. I'm just planning. I'm just preparing. But deep down, it's fear wearing a reasonable outfit. Fear of not being good enough, wasting time, being seen trying to do something to better yourself, or outgrowing the version of you that just feels familiar. Honestly, I think everybody can relate to this in terms of getting up and doing the same routine over and over again. That's known as the proverbial rat race. That's why you gotta have something in your life that I feel like you can come and look that when you do come home from work, if you do have a 9 to 5, or if you just want to shake your routine up, you gotta be able to do something that feels different, just so that you don't feel stuck in life. And that fear is human. But letting it run your life is optional though. Here's something powerful that almost no one talks about. Action honestly gives you something to build and improve on. Like I said earlier in the episode, doing these podcasts gives me something to improve on for the next episode that I choose to put out. That way I can put out better quality than I did in the past. You don't improve by thinking. You improve by doing badly at first. Every successful person you admire, they didn't start confident. They didn't start polished. They didn't start knowing what they were doing. They started with messy, rough drafts, awkward attempts, and half-right decisions. But they had something most people never give themselves: a starting point. You can't edit a blank page. You can't refine something that doesn't exist. You can't grow from nothing. Progress requires for there to be imperfection. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. The moment you're waiting for may never actually come. Because life doesn't slow down for anybody, and time waits for nobody. It honestly speeds up. The responsibility multiplies, the calendar fills up, and the years pass by quietly. I mean, think about it. We're already 20 days into the new year. Literally just yesterday, it felt like the new year just started. And one day, you're going to look back and realize you've been waiting longer than you've been living. And when you do that, you'll get to about 6 months from now. Let's just use that as an example. You'll get to 6 months from now, and then you'll wonder, why didn't I start what I was trying to do? Or if you choose to start later than now, 6 months from now, you're going to wonder, why didn't I start earlier? Had I started earlier, I would have been able to make more progress than what I've been able to get to. And when you realize this, it's not because you were lazy, but because you were waiting for permission that never arrived. And one saying that my brother told me, even though he didn't make it up, but it still rings true to this day: I'd rather ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. No one's going to tell you you're ready now. That realization can feel heavy, but it can also feel freeing. Because, like I said, no one's going to give you permission. You have to give it to yourself. Even if the perfect time did exist, how would you be able to recognize it? You can't predict outcomes. You can't eliminate risk. And you can't control timing the way you think you can. The truth is, most clarity only comes after the moment. You don't gain confidence and then act on it. You act and confidence follows. You don't feel ready and then begin. You begin, and then the readiness builds onto that. Waiting for certainty is like waiting for the ocean to be calm before learning to swim. Waiting slowly turns into procrastination. And then when procrastination starts to kick in, that's when you start to lose the motivation of what you really want to do. Then it becomes, I'll do it after the holidays. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month in February. That's when my year really starts. I'll do it after things settle down. Or I'll do it after I just feel better about myself. And eventually, starting feels heavier than not starting. The mind begins creating stories. It's too late now. Other people are ahead. What's the point? And procrastination isn't laziness, it's emotional overload. It's the weight of all the time you didn't start. And motivation doesn't disappear overnight, it fades slowly. Each delay chips away at belief. Each missed opportunity reinforces doubt. You stop trusting yourself. You stop believing your own intentions. And the opportunities, they just seem to fade away because you didn't go out there and create them. And they just don't wait on anybody. They move on to people who are actually moving, shaking, and actually doing what they choose to do, which is start what they really want to do in life. And they're not the most talented people, and also they're not the most prepared, but they're the most willing to actually try to do what they really want to do in life. And also, they've programmed in their mind that they're willing to fail, and with failure becomes a lesson. And in those lessons, you have something to build off of and correct in the future. And this right here is where the regret starts to kick in. Not loud regret, but quiet regret. The kind that shows up at night when you're laying down in bed by yourself. The one that whispers, "You knew better," or "I wish I started earlier." And eventually, you start to doubt yourself. Not your ability, but your follow through. That's the real cost of waiting. Not failure, but the erosion of self-trust. Let's talk about something that people also don't talk about. Starting doesn't just feel scary, it feels uncomfortable. And honestly, your most growth in life is going to come when you feel uncomfortable. Your heart rate starts to change, your thoughts speed up, and you feel resistance. And we're wired to avoid discomfort. But discomfort isn't danger though. Most people confuse the two. They feel uncomfortable and they assume something is wrong, when really something new is happening. If you only act when you feel calm, certain, and relaxed, you will stay exactly where you are in life. Growth has a physical sensation, and learning to tolerate that sensation is honestly a skill that is built. Sometimes you're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of who you become if you succeed, because growth changes how people see you. And it also changes how you see yourself. And that can threaten old relationships, familiar routines, and also the version of you that feels safe. So waiting becomes a way to stay recognizable. But here's the truth. You don't owe consistency to a version of yourself that was created by fear. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to outgrow your old self. And also, you're allowed to change your mind. Momentum isn't magical. It's neurological. Every small action sends a signal to your brain, "I'm someone who follows through." And that signal builds self-trust. You don't build confidence by thinking positive thoughts. You build confidence by keeping small promises to yourself. One email, one page, one workout, and one uncomfortable conversation at a time. Small actions compound internally before they ever show externally. And also, when you start something, you're not supposed to be perfect at the beginning. Honestly, you're supposed to be bad. And that's not failure. That's the entrance fee. Every skill has a bad phase. Think about your favorite athlete and when you see how good they are. They didn't just wake up and become that good. They had to work on it. And while working on it, failure was there at first. But They continue to work on it to become as good as they are. And that's why they're at the high level at which they reach. Every skill has a bad phase. Most people just quit there though. Not because they can't improve, but because they expect perfection too soon. Most of the businesses that we have nowadays would not still be standing if they let the lack of perfection in the early stages of that business get them down to the point in which they didn't want to continue anymore. But they had a vision and they were willing to see that vision through. And that's why they are the successful businesses that they are now. Also, progress requires humility. It also requires letting yourself be seen learning. And learning is messy. It has bumps in the road. And we talk a lot about the risk of trying. But we rarely talk about the risk of not trying. Staying still has a cost. Lost time, diminished belief, and also quiet resentment towards yourself. You don't stay neutral by waiting. You've moved backwards slowly. And the hardest realization is this. Time passes whether you're going to act or not. So the question becomes, where do you want to be standing when it does? Starting doesn't require a dramatic life change, but it does require honesty. What's one thing you've been avoiding? What's one decision you've delayed? Also, what's one step you keep talking yourself out of? That's where the momentum itself lives. You don't need motivation. You need direction for today. Fear doesn't disappear when you start, but it walks with you. The goal isn't fearless. It's movement despite fear. Courage isn't loud. It's quiet and repetitive. It's choosing action again and again, even when your voice shakes. Self-trust isn't something you wait for. It's something you earn. Every time you act when it's uncomfortable, you deposit trust in yourself. And over time, that trust becomes an identity. I'm someone who shows up. I'm someone who follows through. I'm someone who doesn't wait forever. So if you're still listening right now, it means something inside you already knows that you're not lazy, you're not behind, and you're not broken. You're just standing at the edge of something new. And edges are uncomfortable places to stand. So, take a breath and ask yourself, what am I waiting for? And who told me I needed to wait? What would happen if I started imperfectly? You don't need the whole path, just the next step. And in conclusion, the perfect time is not coming. But courage is available now. Action is available now. Change is available now. You don't need to rush, but you do need to move. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Because at the end of the day, as the old cliche says, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Thank you for listening to this episode of Reality Roundtable. I'm your host, Jonathan Brown. And thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you, and I'll see you next week at 12 p.m.